I was hoping that with this being our final recap podcast of the year, we'd be able to come on and talk about, hey, some good role changes, guys who moved into better roles organically via good play and stuff like that. Instead, we got a lot of injuries. There are a lot of key injuries to running backs to dissect. And a lot of them are pretty big bummers. We're going to break down what those injuries are, what they mean going forward for NFL DFS, and other key takeaways from Week 16. Welcome on into the Heat Check Fantasy Podcast, powered by numberFire. That's right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network and numberFire.com. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com. Joined here, as always, by Brandon Gadula. He is the managing editor of numberFire.com. Brandon, Week 16, kind of a bummer. How you doing today?
How was it a bummer when we got Joe Burrow week?
We got Joe Burrow week. T. Higgins week. I am endlessly grateful I stopped calling him a fake player several weeks ago and have used him and benefited from him recently, which is good. So that's good. I'm was really worried about that. Although several other fake players kind of came through this week. Like the entire Texans team is fake. Therefore, Rex Burkhead playing well is an aberration. Again, who is this? I'm not sure. The Patriots backfield for the most part written off, less so when there's a guy missing, but still like, a little wonkiness going on there. Justin Jackson, the ball carrier, had a couple touchdowns, not a fake player, very much a good player. So that was a positive at least.
I mean, we got, I think that was the missed opportunity of the week for us, was the Justin Jackson, Chris Conley game stack.
Yeah.
Two fun guys.
It is fun to benefit from Justin Jackson scoring as opposed to being mad that it's not Austin Eckler.
Yeah.
Maybe they should bench Austin Eckler for Justin Jackson so that I can feel to make their team better, because it wouldn't, but so I can feel better about my cheering.
Hey, 5.8 yards per carry,
67 yards per target. I mean, on 9 targets.
Yeah. But pretty good. This week was we or at least I say this, I don't put words in your mouth, but it's just kind of a week where you said, stay tuned in the news, you'll benefit. But also other times of the year, we say, don't overreact, don't change things that you like based on things that change. And you and I both love Joe Burrow. We love T. Higgins and Mike Williams. We didn't get Mike Williams, but by the end of the week, we didn't have as soon as the podcast was over, we learned no Dalvin Cook. So we got Madison, we got Singletary, Ronald Jones, Justin Jackson, 4 value backs. I was like, I don't need any mid-tier receivers even. I can get up to the studs. And so I missed out. I had the salary to play Jamar Chase over T. Higgins. And I said that, hey, T. Higgins has the better workload, but Jamar Chase also has been underperforming his workload, and it's a good matchup for him. So, I mean, it's just one of those things, and that's kind of what can happen. But, long term, I'm glad that the process hit with Burrow because we covered him in detail. And that's not a victory lap so much as just kind of being excited that the process worked out.
Well, I think the key part is that we talked about how despite the fact he hadn't had an upside game yet, the building blocks, the word I said 15,000 times, the phrase said 15,000 times on Thursday, were there. And those building blocks came through here in a really big way. So that was a good thing for sure. And with T. Higgins, I think that one thing I tried to do, but maybe should have done a better job with, was consciously building lineups where I did attack that mid-range under the assumption that builds would bring people to stars and scrubs. And I had too much Tyreek Hill as a result of that approach. Cooper Kupp and Justin Jefferson were fine. I had a lot of them too. But I needed to do more of that, where I'm consciously building in ranges other people will not be in, not because those ranges are bad, but because the typical default build takes them elsewhere.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing I try to, I try to approach everything with more of even a more contrarian mindset than you, and just I'll do things that don't make as much sense. But by Sunday morning, it was a very clear way to build lineups with the amount of value backs, the just sheer lack of reason to allocate salary to higher end running backs in terms of the salary pool. And I was like, you know what? I love Joe Burrow. I don't think I need to go there. I'll play Patrick Mahomes without Travis Kelce. Justin Herbert without Mike Williams and Austin Eckler. And I don't think I would have done that if I had all this information on Thursday. But when you get this over the weekend again, holiday weekend, it's harder to kind of concentrate on. So while we can look at all the stats, there's still that element of lineup building that is just crucial across all sports.
Honestly, too, if I just had never heard that Tyreek Hill came off the COVID list, I'd have done better. If I just hadn't known, because I would have had. I mean, Mahomes is fine, but I wouldn't have had Hill because I had a lot of him.
Right.
Like, if I had just not known that happened, it would have been a better weekend. But I mean, it's hard to expect Tyreek Hill to get 2 targets in a game where there's no Travis Kelce as well. So
yeah, I feared that 19 target Tyreek Hill game, and it's like, why didn't I just, it made sense, but again, and you can say either way, you can kind of tilt and say that you got it right or wrong, but as long as the process is there, I think the process was just there with Joe Burrow and T. Higgins, and I forgot about that.
But it feels good. It feels good. And next week,
I had Joe Burrow. I had some, and Tyler Boyd. Just keep the ball to Jamar Chase. I don't understand. I don't know what's going on. That's just a personal thing, though.
Boyd is whatever. But I think that long-term, it does feel good there. Okay, we're going to talk about those key injuries to running backs in just 1 second. But first, we still have Santa Barkley going on over at FanDuel. This is the final day, December 27th, final day to compete in free NBA daily fantasy contests on FanDuel for a chance to win cash prizes. All you got to do is go to FanDuel.com and submit your best 9-player lineup into a Santa Barkley NBA free play contest and follow along as the games unfold. With nearly $7 million worth of gifts being given out, now is the time to get into the holiday spirit by heading over to FanDuel and taking part in the 7 days of Santa Barkley. Again, final day of today. Age and location restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. See terms at FanDuel.com. Let's dive in here to our Week 16 headliners. And again, that is the running back injuries we saw across this week, starting off with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Exited with a collarbone injury, and x-rays were negative. Still seems pretty likely that CEH winds up missing time. And the Chiefs pulled starters late, so hard to know what the workload would have looked like here had it been a more competitive game. But through the first 3 quarters, Darrell Williams had outsnapped Derek Gore 26-9. Williams had 10 carries and 3 targets. Gore only 9 snaps, but still had 6 carries and 3 targets. So it could go back to what it was when CEH was out before, with Williams being usable for DFS. But Gore has played well. It's mostly been in garbage time, but he's had huge chunk gains, and that couple of his catches on Sunday were before things were super, super out of hand. So that's sticking out in my mind, at least. How are you viewing this backfield if we assume CEH misses at least week 17 against the Bengals?
This isn't exactly, but I'll kind of I think this is fair enough where I say Darrell Williams is now Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Derek Gore is like Darrell Williams, where it's to the point where it's I would consider Clyde Edwards-Helaire overall in most weeks. Now I'll consider Darrell Williams, but it's not a must play. I mean, it does help a little bit that we're not getting those sort of ancillary Derek Gore plays with Edwards-Helaire and Williams. So, it's fine. But it's really not a situation. This is not a team that I ever look for running backs unless the salary is super low.
Yeah.
And even then we get a 14-game main slate next week. So it's got to be a very, very low salary.
It's outrageous that there's a 14-game slate, by the way, because we have no Thursday night football, no Saturday games. So it's just Sunday, Monday night football.
We should have that the following week too, if I'm not mistaken. No, I guess.
And there's no Monday, so it's actually a 15-game slate.
Yeah.
Yeah, even worse. I hate it already. Darrell Williams' salary in that game against the Bengals is 62. So I think they actually pushed him up enough where I can kind of view him the same way you did, where it's like, okay, would I use CEH in this spot at 62? I probably have some, depending on the running back slate, but not a situation where I feel like I need to jam him in, just because I think that Gore has played well enough to earn something. So I think that's kind of the way I'd be viewing that one. James Robinson tore his Achilles. This is a bummer because I think I had about 50%. James Robinson is kind of like, everyone will spend down at running back. That'll keep him overlooked. big bummer. Also just bummer because like he's gone through a lot, and to now earn this big role and then tear his Achilles, that stinks. So bummer for James Robinson. Carlos Hyde is on IR. So Daria Gumbawale led the way here. He had 17 carries and 4 targets on an 83% snap rate. So, like, in theory, that could lead you to thinking that Ogunbowale will have a big role in week 17, but I believe they just re-signed Raquel Armstead off the Packers practice squad. And my guess would be that he is active and we get kind of a committee here. We might get more word on this before we have to like fill out lineups week 17. So I'm not sure what that will look like here, but I think that would be my concern with getting too excited about Ogunbowale for next week. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, everything kind of lined up for Ogunbowale to get as much work as he did. Robinson left pretty much immediately. He played 10 snaps. No Carlos Hyde, just kind of was the guy. So I don't think it's a spot where you absolutely chase this. You would think that snap rate comes down. Raquel, you want to talk about someone going through a lot of stuff?
Yeah, no kidding,
Armstead.
Man.
So hopefully, just for my sake, we get the news that they'll kind of split work and I don't have to worry about it. But we're also looking at the Jaguars, and I can't imagine that their implied team total is.
Do you want to guess it?
Okay, so they're
facing the Patriots.
The Patriots, I would say probably 14.
You actually overshot it. It's 13 and a half. So even if he were a bell cow or a feature back, I feel like we could still ignore him there, given the way things set up. So that's pretty helpful. Miles Sanders left early with a hand injury, and it sounds like it may be a fracture, but he might try to play through it, which is weird, but whatever, do you. Jordan Howard and Boston Scott split work and split snaps here. Howard had 9 carries and 4 targets. Scott had 12 carries and 0 targets. We've seen this backfield before with Scott, Howard, and Gainwell healthy and Sanders out. That was weeks 8 and 10. In those 2 games, nobody played more than 44% of the snaps, and nobody had more than 15 adjusted opportunities, which is carries plus 2x targets. Scott, 60 and 105 yards in those 2 games. Howard had 83 in one of them and handled most of the red zone work. So I am most receptive to Howard, but I think this is probably a backfield to avoid. Hopefully Sanders plays to make that more definitive, but what are you viewing here with this one?
Yeah, it's kind of similar to the Patriots in the sense that, we might go from 3 guys to 2 guys, but as we can talk about with the Patriots, that just made everyone's snap rate from 33% to 50%.
Yeah.
Probably going to be the same thing here at best. And of course, Gainwell can mix in. He played 2 snaps, this week. And I guess you can always make the case for Jordan Howard to have some touchdowns because he had those 4 red zone carries and surprisingly the 4 targets. But overall, 14-game slate, really hard to say that I'm going to play any backs in committees for next week.
So you could play a back who is definitively not in a committee and play Sony Michel because not only has he been a workhorse, but Darrell Henderson also left early with a knee injury on Sunday. Henderson has a knee sprain and he will get an MRI on Monday, but that came pretty late in the game after Michel was already just controlling everything. He played 90% of the snaps. He had 27 carries and 4 targets. It is an absurd role in an offense that is struggling, but usually good. So they get Baltimore next week. Tough run matchup, but a good game. Name that salary on Sony Michel if we assume Henderson misses more time.
Given the context of everything, 78.
I was thinking 8,000, and he is 71.
Okay, that's a bit low. I don't know the total yet.
46. 46, and the Rams are 3-point favorites on the road.
71. I would imagine at this point, that'll be one of the best salaries at running back that we get.
I don't know how you can get a lot better than a 90% snap rate, good team, good game for $7,100.
Yeah. So here's a perfect Brandon's thinking smartly on Monday. I don't care like what kind of junky value opens up. No, I shouldn't say junky because these guys are, pro athletes. But like, let's say, right, we get news that Dare is going to get a chance to be just a feature back again. In his salary is 5,500. We did not mention that. I do not want to chase that versus playing Sony Michel at 71. So again, I say that Monday,
right?
We might find out, so I'm trying to be clear with myself and set some expectations.
I just put him in a lineup and I'm going to fill one out as we go along. I'm not sure if I'll submit it because I don't like wasting money, but like I should have done that this week.
Yes.
So I'm going to just do this. I don't know. Again, like it's not optimal to fill out lineups without all the information, but like we're just going to see what happens and maybe I'll submit it and we'll check it out later on. Okay, so that's the running back injury. Let's talk about the other key injury this week, which was Adam Thielen re-injuring his ankle. In and out of the lineup on Sunday, played 37% of the team snaps. As usual, KJ Osborne got an uptick in snaps and routes here, but Justin Jefferson, 12 targets. He had the most on the team by a wide margin. Osborne had 7. Tyler Conklin had 5. So Thielen, I think, has a pretty decent shot to sit. They're not in the main slate next week. They're facing Green Bay on Sunday night, but would you go back to Osborne or Conklin if Thielen misses more time?
I think I would be open to both of them if I really needed it, but the big winner is Justin Jefferson, I think. And it's hard to be a big winner whenever you're already so good and having such a big role. But that would just bump me up on Jefferson, bump me down on the offense overall, though. Just because Adam Thielen is a touchdown scorer, and you want touchdowns to go to the guys that you're rostering, but I do think that he makes a positive impact on the offense overall.
And we've seen this offense lag the past 4 games, and I don't like they faced some tough defenses, but I also don't think it's a coincidence that this downtick has occurred without him, because like Adam Thielen in a vacuum, good. Adam Thielen, the drop down is guys who were like 5th round picks, or like I think Conklin might have been undrafted. Like that's tough. So I would say you phrased it correctly in saying that either Osborne or Conklin could be in play, because I think that like they're both going to have low floors with a path to like a decent game, and I think that's worth keeping in mind for like the single game slate, that both those guys have a path to a decent game.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm trying to be a great co-host and tweet out the link to this stream 18 and a half minutes into the show.
So they missed all the key running back injuries, and now they're going to join us and be upset with you. Can you go? I think you can go back on YouTube. Anyway, whatever. Let's go to role changes here and take a look at some guys whose roles shifted on Sunday, and talk about the Bucs, because they got a lot of stuff going on. It was their first game without their 3 stars, and it was the Antonio Brown show. He had 15 targets. Nobody else had more than 4. Brown had 3 deep targets, but none in the red zone. He was a legitimate target hog here. In the backfield, Keyshawn Vaughn had a huge touchdown, and he did play a lot of snaps. He was at 36% compared to Ronald Jones at 52%. Jones had 20 carries and 3 targets for 81 yards. Pretty good usage there. But Vaughn's big run could earn him more time. The 52% snap rate for Jones came in the ideal script for him. So I'm sky high on Antonio Brown. Definitely good there. Still good with Rob Gronkowski, despite the dud. And I'm a bit more wary, maybe more than a bit. I'm more wary of Ronald Jones now than I was coming into this week. Where are you at on those 3 guys specifically?
Yeah, I mean, Antonio Brown's the big winner, and we should probably anticipate that we'll get Mike Evans back for next week. But even with that, Antonio Brown's going to be someone who I have a lot of confidence in, because I broke down this offense on Thursday talking about just Antonio Brown's ability to, be a relevant player with no change to his workload. And we did see a change to his workload with the 15 targets. That was over 50%. Just was pretty phenomenal work there. I won't go away from Rob Gronkowski, but he kind of hurt me this week. I won't lie, Rob. Had enough salary to get up there. got off of Mark Andrews because of the quarterback situation, and Gronkowski's dud was problematic. But yeah, I'm with you with Jones. It's a big bump down. I think the one plus is that his salary shouldn't have gone up too much unless the sheer popularity of him raised it, but the results weren't such that, he's going to be completely elevated.
Right.
So name me a salary for Ronald Jones for next week when they play the Jets.
So if you were giving me this in a neutral matchup, I'd say 65, just because it's not a great roll and there's paths of failure. When it's the Jets, I would say 72. I think it's actually worth a $700 increase for him specifically. 7,000.
7,000 is his salary. I think that's justifiable, but I think that we both would sit here and say Sony Michel over Ronald Jones,
despite the matchup discrepancy, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that might be not the way people view it. I kind of hope that people would be more into Jones at that salary range, but I don't know. I'm not sure. The field's gotten a little bit smarter, so I think they might not overreact to a matchup the way they used to.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, look, there's still edges to be had. Sometimes you see some plays that don't make a whole lot of sense to us, but I'm sure we play those too, and people say I don't think that makes a whole lot of sense. But I couldn't play my guy Amon-Ra St. Brown this week with Tim Boyle. Some people did it. It worked out. So maybe I'm the dummy.
Maybe. Maybe. I'm not going to review. Well, you got your back there. Antonio Brown is $8,500. If we assume Evans is back, I don't think that's outrageous, but I also think that's appropriate.
Yeah, I do.
He shouldn't be higher than Tyreek Hill, though, which he is.
Yeah, that's. I would say that's true because the role can't be quite as good with Mike Evans. I guess it can be.
Yeah, with no Godwin, it still could be. I think.
Boy, he got targeted on 58% of his routes,
and his target per route rate was already very high previously.
Yeah. And that was basically the.
Oh, you said that. You told me that. Okay, yeah. I don't know why I told you that. Yeah. Thanks, Jim. See, I do listen to you because I retain the information. Because you told me it, but
Sure. I mean, sometimes.
Yeah, occasionally. I will not listen to you about Debos Samuel. Debos Samuel became a wide receiver again this week. He played in the backfield just 5 snaps, and he was out wider in the slot on 39 snaps. Team high 11 targets for 159 yards. Still did have 5 carries for 32 yards. Brendan Ayuk 5 targets, George Kittle 3. So I don't know if this is actually a role change. That might be a hot take. Because I know. I don't think it's a role change because he did this once earlier while playing more running back. It was the first game in this stretch. Let me pull up. Okay, so it was back in. They don't have the rushing numbers on here. I think it was against the Rams on the 15th. That game, he had 5 receptions for 97 yards, and I think he had 5 to 8 carries. Same thing here. So I think that what we're seeing is that he just has a volatile role. So the upside is still there, but I don't think it's necessarily cures him of those issues. Now, the one thing that could secure his role as a wide receiver would be if Eli Mitchell comes back next week, which I think is going to happen. So I guess for me, I'm kind of viewing him the same, maybe bumping up his ceiling a bit. I don't know. You seem to have a different view of this. You gave me a disgruntled look when I said it might not be a role change.
Okay, so you were going back trying to look at the carries, which I have pulled up.
Yeah.
So I think the demarcation here is the week 10 against the Rams when he had
correct
5 carries. So since then he's had 5, 8, 6, 8, 6, and 5 carries. So the rushes were still there. The difference is his targets were 5, 2, 4, 1, 5, and then 11.
But he was still running routes to receiver, just didn't get targeted. So I think that if you're looking at, if I'm looking at a most relevant sample, I include all of those games still. Yeah. But I include the Rams game and this one because those are within the range of outcomes. He just has a really, really wide range of outcomes in terms of how he'll be used.
Here's what I'm going to say. He's basically locked into 30 on the low end rushing yards on like 5 carries, which is awesome.
Stupid.
And with so it's the first game since week 10 that he didn't score a rushing touchdown, which is just wild.
Yeah.
But I'm going to change my view now, knowing that he is capable of leading this team in targets and still holding the rushing workload that he has. So I would say it's a role change. It might just be semantics, but the fact that he finally got targeted is a change to me, because now I got to fear that he puts up over 150 receiving yards and gets like 5 high leverage carries with this chance to score. That is like, that makes me want to be more okay with a high salary for Debo than if he was getting, I would estimate like 3.5 targets per game before that.
So I think the key difference is that I was viewing week 10 as being part of the sample, whereas most people were not. So I already viewed him as having that upside. But
it still was 5 targets. I'm not going to bank on 19.4 yards per catch, which I should for Debo, but like, it's 5 targets and 11 targets are very different.
Yes, but like, that's just kind of like target variance, I guess. I don't know.
It's 5, 2, 4, 1, 5 targets, and then 11 with the same rushing workload.
Right, but they also didn't they throw a bunch because they were down in this game?
I'm just saying, like, but okay, but market share wise, he's been behind George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk by a mile.
Yeah,
and he was.
So I think that I guess that the other way to phrase this is I also viewed Ayuk and Kittle as having a low floor, and like this was an example of that. So I actually don't shift my view of them too much either.
Okay, this has been the year of Debos Samuel for us. What salary?
I already saw his salary, and I'm
me upset. Too. Here's the thing. So his salary's $9,000 against the Texans. If you told me Debo at the average, and I should have just pulled this up by this point, of like 3 to 4 targets a game with the rushing, would I play him at 9,000? No. Would I play him if he still has the ability to lead this team in targets by a good margin and have that rushing workload? Yeah, I'm into that. So that's a key difference for me. So I think it is a role change.
See, I always thought he had that. So I guess, I don't know, maybe I was being a fish, but like I thought that was still something.
You thought when he was getting, under 5 targets that he had the ability.
Yeah, because he was still running a ton of routes as a receiver. And like, we've seen him get targets as a receiver before. So I thought that was still something he could do. Like we talked about this for the Atlanta game. That's why I had him above Ayuk in terms of when we were trying to like look at the guys within that game. It's like, okay, I think he can still do this. Even though his salary is 82, that's why I was still on him at that salary, was because I thought that was within his range of outcomes.
So from week 10 through 15, so not including this week, target per route rate for this team: George Kittle 32%, Brandon Ayuk 21%, Debo Samuel 14%. 14% target rate, like route per target or target per route rate, is not what we saw from him when he got a 39% mark. He might have been running routes, but he wasn't getting targeted.
It's almost like regression is a thing when you see an outlier. I didn't expect him to stay at 14%.
But did you expect him to come out of nowhere and overtake Ayuk and Kittle based on how he was being used?
I thought it was possible because like he showed that he deserved those targets earlier on in the year. Like, I didn't assume that he was in like this new role where he couldn't get targets anymore because it's Debos Samuel. He's the best player on the team. I don't
think the regression is the same as like not getting the ball.
Regression in usage is, because like usage isn't always sticky if it's outlierish, and I think that a 14% target per route rate thing on Debos Samuel is outlier in the negative sense.
Okay.
I think
we both like Debo at 9,000.
Yeah,
that's what it comes down to.
Name that salary for Kittle and Ayuk against Houston at home.
Well, if now Debo is their RB1 and their wide receiver 1,
and their quarterback 1,
yeah, and Ayuk is just trash now, and Kittle's going to get targeted on under 10% of his routes. They should be in the 4,000 range. But in this matchup, I think Ayuk's going to be probably 68 and Kittle probably like 74.
So if I were like allocating salaries in my mind based on like what I think they can do, I think Ayuk should be like 63 and Kittle should be like 7,000 because like low floor, so you don't really want to fork over, like still has like maybe the high ceiling among all tight ends.
So Kittle's salary is 7,300. So we're both, in that ballpark. Ayuk's 59.
Like it. I like that.
I think that's an overreaction.
I agree.
So I'm gonna make a note to play Brandon Ayuk.
Should I just put him in this Michelle lineup here?
Yeah, all Michelle right, and Ayuk.
Not my favorite player, but whatever. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna pull a Higgins on him. I'm not calling him fake, but he's annoying. I'll call Brandon Ayuk annoying. So what?
Yeah.
He's annoying because
he was there. We'll include George Kittle here. He was their wide receiver 2, getting like 24% of the targets
in a small sample, and he wasn't doing a ton from a yardage perspective with it.
Okay,
just saying. Just saying. Speaking of that Thursday night game, AJ Brown on Thursday. 16 out of 29 targets from Ryan Tannehill. My goodness. Also, but why wouldn't you? 55% target share for 145 yards and a touchdown. He had a 91% air yard share. How is that real? In games with Brown and Julio Jones playing at least half the snaps this year, Brown has a 28% target share, 43% air yard share. Jones is next in line with a 10% target share. It's just kind of AJ Brown or bust. Next week, Tennessee is facing Miami. Good quarterbacks there, but like also who cares? So where are you at with AJ Brown entering week 17?
You got to be pretty high because, if you're going to be on a run heavy team, you need like mega high target shares. And it was very evident that that's what they wanted to do. With him now, he threw a pass too, so make sure that that's factored in if you guys do your own like market share work, because that'll come into play because
he can't throw it
himself. So
he probably should.
He probably should. But yeah, this team has basically been just written off entirely, and now with AJ Brown back, I'm cool with that. We'll see what Miami does tonight. Monday, I should clarify. But I think AJ Brown is trying to think of a good comp. Then it's not exactly right, but I'm thinking like a Terry McLaurin in a better situation where like he's the only type of play from the team that you can justify. Back when Terry was actually getting targeted, he's like not anymore. I'm just trying to think of like those one-off. It's like the team comes down to one receiver. Maybe like a DJ Moore.
If I ignore the backfield, he's Justin Jefferson with Adam Thielen out. Because like the backfield's viable there, but that's because they're concentrated. If the Titans decided to commit to one guy, they'd be usable, but they don't. So
yeah,
I think he's Justin Jefferson without Adam Thielen, which means his salary I think is like worth 83 or so, right?
Yeah, I still think that's a little too optimistic. If we're nitpicking like of the offensive expectations, I was trying to think of like a bad team that it's like, do I want to play this one guy or not?
Well, I think the good thing is they're a lot less bad when he's out there. Also, he's 75.
75. That's totally doable.
Okay. I can get behind that. I like that. Chase Edmonds was a feature back in the Cardinals offense with James Conner missing due to a heel injury. Edmonds had 16 carries and 9 targets, which is 34 adjusted opportunities. He had a 92% snap rate. Why couldn't this happen during the regular season when I had Chase Edmonds in Dynasty? It's awesome. I traded like Jalen Reagor and Tutu Atwell for him, but he gets hurt the week after. Now he's a feature back. Connor's probably not going to probably going to play in week 17 if I had to guess, but let's just say hypothetically he doesn't. Name that salary for Chase Edmonds in week 17.
Like 82.
Yeah, with that role, yeah,
yeah,
or 15,000.
No, it was weird. and again, holiday weekend, so I wasn't entirely tuned in, but Connor didn't practice, but was like expected to play.
Yeah, so like Shefty, I think Shefty never gets this wrong, but I'm pretty sure Shefty tweeted Friday night that he was going to play, and then he didn't progress as much as they thought he would, so he didn't play. So it seemed like Saturday morning just didn't feel as good as they thought he would.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's still a little bit concerning that he didn't practice.
Yeah.
Which kind of means that, okay, let's do the other thing where Connor is going to play, may not be 100%. Where would you be with Chase Edmonds?
I think then it's closer to like 7,000 just because like if you put your finger on the lever a little or on the scales of it and shift things more towards Connor or towards Edmonds than they are towards Connor, like he already had good yardage upside because he's such a good receiver. And like that's a really good game. So if Connor is like active, but we know beforehand he'll be like limited, then I think the Edmonds shifts closer to like 7,000. And like that's a pretty good roll, I think.
What if I told you his salary was 6,500?
Okay, confession time. I used Chase Edmonds on a 2-game slate when James Conner was active. I'm not the right person to ask about this. I love Chase Edmonds. We will dump this audio. It will never exist. I used him a couple times because I adore him and think that his usage is really fun. I'm not the right person to ask. I think that's a great number.
Yeah, I think
it was a 2-game slate in my defense, but
sure. But if we get Edmonds with Connor, I think he's in play at 65. If we get for whatever news like Connor just has a big setback, we get Chase Edmonds by himself. Chase Edmonds against the Cowboys would be a lock button play.
He would be well above Michelle at that point.
Yes.
And Michelle at 71. I think Edmonds would be, my goodness. Like, just because like that role is so good when there's no Connor to take away goal line usage. Because like in this game, I don't know why I said in this week, he had 4 out of 7 red zone chances for the team. Also, Rodney Hudson, likely back this week, didn't play. And you saw the issues they had at center this past week. I thought he'd be back for this game from the COVID list. He was not. So he should be back this week. That'll be a big lift for the offense. So I would adore Edmonds if that happens. So rest up, James. Get healthy for the playoffs. And we'll talk to you then. Michael Carter played 74% of the snaps for the Jets. He was at 54% last week in his first game off IR. Tevin Coleman, though, was still involved. Coleman, 14 carries, 1 target, whereas Carter had 16 carries and 3 targets. So it's a 74% snap rate, which is very good. But it's a terrible offense. And Tevin Coleman's still mixing in. Coleman's getting goal line work, too, which I think is noteworthy here. So although a 74% snap rate sounds good, I am still very, 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 very wary of Michael Carter. What about you?
I am, and it's impossible to look at this team because this team's so matchup dependent that you need a perfect spot, and they play the Buccaneers next week, so not the best spot.
No.
Unless you make the case that Michael Carter is going to get like 12 targets, which like you could, but again,
if they throw 24 times.
I don't think they're going to be able to.
They're going to try.
Yeah. But I think that this is not enough juice here with a 16-point implied team total. Boy, we got some big totals and some low totals next week.
Yeah, we do. I think I agree. Where I'm not in. Despite a 74% snap rate. Damian Harris played 52% of the snaps with no Ramondre Stevenson. He did score 3 times, but 18 carries and no targets. He had 56% of the red zone usage, which is pretty great, but you need things to break in your favor to beast out in the way he did with 18 carries and no targets. Those things did happen, so he has that upside. I'm just trying not to overreact to what he did here. My hope, Brandon, is that Ramondre Stevenson is back next week and I can go back to just ignoring this backfield. That'd be a lot easier, but I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really want to play Damien Harris because we know what his ceiling is, and his ceiling is like not horrible because he has multiple touchdown upside, and he especially is going to profile as someone with that next week against the Jaguars as a 15.5 point favorite. implied team total of 29 points. He is going to get some optimizer love if there's no Stevenson for sure. He might even get it without that because of the touchdown equity that he possesses. I don't want to throw you under the bus, but there was a week earlier this year where you talked yourself into Damian Harris. I think it was against the Chargers, maybe, because of the high over under and the fact that they're the Chargers specifically can give up a lot of rushing against the Jaguars. Like, are you seeing enough here that you would play Harris, and what salary would you kind of allocate for him?
I'd play him because of the Jaguars.
Right.
If there's no Stevenson. If Stevenson plays, I think that's tougher for me just because it'll be 3-man committee. Everyone gets 15 carries effectively. Mac Jones, you can have three pass attempts if you want as a treat. So if Stevenson plays, I'm probably just gonna, but hope that no one bites me.
Humor me here and say there's no Stevenson. What salary do you think is fair for Harris?
So we talked about Rojo in his matchup. I think that they're kind of similar. So I would say like 7,000 is actually probably pretty appropriate, even though his role in a vacuum is worth more like 65, 63.
His salary is 7,400.
Well, that's easy then.
I think Rosa even said fade.
Yeah. She was asleep on the couch and then she got woken up.
Yeah, with this astonishing news.
She was pretty cute. She had her head laying on a pillow and sprung to life.
Well, she might have been saying, "Hey, dummies! He's got back-to-back 100-yard rushing games. He's scored in 3 straight.
She's a box score scout.
2,
let's be
4,
honest.
6, 8, 9. So 8 of his past 9, he's got at least 1 touchdown. He's good. I mean, he's going to be like what, minus 200 to score next week.
It's the worst. Also, the worst is Rex Burkhead. He was featured for the Texans in their win over the Chargers. Yes, win over the Chargers. Fun stuff. Burkhead, 22 carries for 149 yards and 2 touchdowns. Had 2 targets. 64% snap rate without David Johnson. So my strategy of ignoring the Houston Texans no matter what backfired. I thought that I could feel more firm in that despite Johnson being out because Brandon Cooks is also out. I thought this offense wouldn't function. But instead, Davis Mills is dropping dimes to Chris Conley and moving the ball. So is there enough here for you to consider Rex Burkhead, or can I just go back to modus operandi and keep ignoring this backfield?
I think I'd need to know that David Johnson's just still out.
Yeah.
This becomes just an attrition game, and we're kind of getting to that point with some of these backfields where, hey, look, if Tevin Coleman were out, I know the matchup specifically for Michael Carter is like horrible, but like it's like, okay, I get it. I can see the case for Michael Carter. I think it's the same thing for Rex Burkhead. If we get David Johnson back, I don't know that they're just gonna like run Rex Burkhead like this again. They might, but within the offensive expectations too, I like to kind of avoid backs after blow up games.
Yeah.
In offenses that are suspect. A lot kind of went wrong for the Chargers leading into that week with, their guys out, both offensively and defensively. So I'm not going to get there myself, most likely. Even if we don't get David Johnson, they probably won't do a whole lot next week against the 49ers. They're 15-point road underdogs.
I'm not even going to ask a salary because I don't care. I'm not going to use him, so I'm not going to bother. Byron Pringle led the Chiefs with 7 targets and 28 routes, 2 touchdowns. He's been their number 2 receiver this whole time, and he finally got the usage, but it came with Travis Kelce being out and Tyreek Hill kind of being a weirdo. So next week they face the Bengals. Great game that we're going to want to stack. Let's assume Kelce's back, which he should be. Will you include Pringle in game stacks of Bengals versus Chiefs?
I think I will, unless the 2 touchdown game really bumped up that salary. His role really shifted a little bit before the bye, but really specifically since the bye, it's been pretty solidified. So he's run a route on 76% of dropbacks, He's got a 13% target share, 16% air yards, some down, like half a downfield target per game, so 2 in the 4 games, a red zone target per game. I think you could do worse, especially if we haven't done the salary scroll, but there's 14 games in the main slate. Presumably, we got some backs that we want to allocate salary for. I think you could do worse in a game like that. So I probably will initially have Pringle on the list unless his salary is like starting with a 6.
No, it's 56, so it's not bad. But like the checklist at receiver for inclusion in lineups is they need to get to 85 yards or 2 touchdowns. They need to get 2 touchdowns this week. How bankable is that? Probably not bankable if you put Kelce back in there. He's not had more than 75 yards this year. So I want to remain hesitant and not be point chasey, given that the situation will change. So I'm a bit lower. I think the snaps are valuable on that Chiefs team because it's tied to the Chiefs and it's tied to a very good game. I just don't know if he can hurt me for not using him, I guess. He kind of did this week, but like in a different context with Kelce being out. So I'm still pretty hesitant person. I want to be hesitant. I may talk myself into it if I need the value, which I think is kind of what you were saying too. Yeah. But like, I want to not get there if I can avoid it.
There have been wide receivers in the like 56 to 59 range. I've actively wanted to say, look, I'm going to build around these guys. I think they're undersalaried. This is not one of those cases.
Yes.
This is for the salary within this game. I think that there's a path to playing some Byron Pringle just because of the fact that this is one of the standout games for next week. It's going to be really Cowboys, Cardinals, and Bengals, Chiefs, and then a drop-off. So I think there's enough here within that context. And again, we should have Jonathan Taylor on the main slate against the Raiders. So I'm just trying to be pragmatic here and assume that I'll need some value at receiver and that Pringles, there's enough there. Being on the field in a shootout is kind of enough for me sometimes.
Yeah. We're saying he's not a priority. And I think that's the key thing here, given that he did just have 2 touchdowns. Okay. Devin Singletary's role decreased a bit this week with Zach Moss being inactive instead of Matt Breida. Snap rate went down to 71%. Did those still have 24 adjusted opportunities with a 27% red zone share? In a more neutral script, it's possible Singletary could be usable for DFS, but I needed like the ideal situation to be super into him. He got the ideal situation last week, lost the ideal situation this week. Probably going to get Atlanta next week, and I think that he's still like their lead back. So like, I don't want to write him off, but I also don't want to write him on. I don't know if that's a phrase, but I'm going to make it a phrase. I don't know if I want to write him on, but I'm not going to write him off yet. Name me that salary for Devin Singletary, given this past game, but also given a matchup at home versus Atlanta next week.
He should be in like, I don't want to throw any comps with Singletary. I think he should be in the 66 to 67 range. I know the full game numbers weren't awesome, but he was so involved for them early on in that game. He had 3 targets, 2 carries in the first quarter. That's a really good workload. They were just leaning on him. They kind of went away from him. But if we have that type of potential, that's really appealing within this offense. He's still getting, he's on the field, near the goal line. That's promising. Not a guarantee that he'll ever bank in, cash in on those opportunities because this team spreads the ball around a lot between Josh Allen and all the pass catchers they have at the goal line. But with that, I would say about 66.
He's 6,000. That's low enough where I'm still going to have a lot of interest, I think.
In this spot, yeah. I mean, what's their implied team total?
High.
29.25. We have so many like 29 point implied team totals. That's a really good spot.
I think that's low enough where I'll be talking about him again.
Chase Edmonds at 65 with Connor or
Singletary by a wide margin there.
Okay, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's go into situations to monitor here and talk about other things that stood out to us on Sunday or Thursday or Saturday. Brandon, what did you note when looking at the stuff?
Yeah, we should get Austin Eckler back. But if not, it's just worth noting how good Justin Jackson's role was. 72% snap rate, 11 carries, team high 9 targets, 3 of 6 red zone opportunities. So that's a great role for someone whose main concern has just been not being on the field, but when he's on the field, not being able to score, not getting those opportunities. Those were there. Michael Pittman got back to 12 targets, which is promising. He's still been there by far their wide receiver 1. It's just been the Jonathan Taylor show for so long that it's nice to see that Pittman does have that. And in the spots where we think that, they might have to pass more, Pittman has some relevance, some path to upside. For the Cardinals, Zach Ertz had 13 targets. And in 5 games since his role improved with Arizona and without DeAndre Hopkins, he's got a team high 24% target share, 25% air yard share for 8.8 targets per game. Also, Christian Kirk in that sample does lead the team with 29% of the air yards, 22% target share himself. I like that. Anytime.
Can you name me that salary on those two for the Dallas game, please?
Ertz should probably have a salary of like 65.
I'm probably closer to 62, but I agree that it should be in the 6s.
And then Kirk, he feels like a 67, 68.
Ertz is 55.
Okay.
So like we talk about opportunity cost in terms of like if you use a mid-salary tight end, you're not getting to one of the studs. But he's had 11 and 13 targets the past 2 weeks. He hasn't had like a huge game because he hasn't scored, but like he had 24.8 points earlier on this year. I think he can have a big game. So I don't think the opportunity cost there is that bad, right?
No, I mean, he's got 54, 74 yards, 42, 88. I mean, his yardage upside's been a lot better, at least anecdotally.
Christian Kirk 64. That's way too low too.
Yeah, sorry, your mic went a little haywire, and I didn't.
Oh no, it's coffee.
Well, you're okay.
It's a coffee machine.
Yeah, those are both too low.
Yeah, I think that's great. I'm in. Like, again, James Conner, we love you, bud. Rest up. Get set for the playoffs or free agency. I don't know. Who cares? You can come back next year if you want. Or Chase Edmonds rest up and James Conner come back. I don't care. Sure. It's one or the other. I don't care. Fine with me. Awesome team to take advantage of buying low on them because people are out, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, go to your other note. Team that I'm not going to buy low on. You can if you want.
Just again, we're looking for some value at receiver always. Robbie Anderson has now had 12, 8, and 10 targets in his past 3 games with 60, 73, and 64 yards. I think the more important note is that DJ Moore has 10 plus targets in 4 straight. And if I'm taking a chance on a good player and a bad spot with volume, it's going to be DJ Moore.
If you're taking advantage of a good player, there's only one to choose from there. It's DJ Moore. So, I mean, also you forget that the I hate my quarterback narrative is coming back with Robbie Anderson with Sam Darnold playing again. So the I hate my quarterback narrative is back in Carolina. And I think we should downgrade Robbie significantly as a result of that. Just floating that out there. Okay. Things I was taking note of. Nick Chubb continues to be just disgusting with no Kareem Hunt. He had 184 yards from scrimmage on Saturday. He has played at least 55% of the snaps in 7 games. He's averaged 127 yards from scrimmage in those 7 games. Absurd number for Nick Chubb. So whenever Hunt is out, Nick Chubb, he becomes like a mid 8,000 back, I think, with how he's used. So keep an eye on Nick Chubb to see if we get him with no Kareem Hunt. Joe Mixon's snap rate went back up to 80% after being 66% or lower in 3 straight games. Also had 6 targets, which is very good. The passing game usage, not easy to predict. So it's tough to tell if this is actually like any role change. But it's good to see the upside is still there for Joe Mixon. Alexander Madison.
He had a nice downfield target too.
It's because Joe Burrow's
like
good.
Deep downfield.
Joe Burrow's good. Also, he's good. People get mad at Joe Mixon for weird reasons. I don't know. Weird. It's weird. He has upside. That's all I ask for. Alexander Madison's role decreased a bit. He played 75% of the snaps, but had just 21 adjusted opportunities. He had 42, 39, and 28 in his other 3 games with no Dalvin Cook. This is the first game he played with Kenny Nwangwu, where Nwangwu was not like sick coming into the game. Nwangwu had 5 carries, 2 targets, couple red zone chances. So I would downgrade Madison a bit if Dalvin misses time again. Not a significant amount. Downgrading him a bit, though. I think that's worthwhile here.
This was kind of the read you had earlier.
Yeah.
And it didn't quite pan out because Nwangwu wasn't 100%.
Right.
Would you kind of say that came to fruition here for you?
This is kind of what I expected.
Yeah.
The difference in terms of like my fear with it with Madison is that he was 8,000 last time we were talking about it versus 55 this time.
Yeah.
So like that's why I didn't care about it in terms of DFS, but like I thought this was probably going to happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So this is basically what I was expecting.
I was trying to bless you up, baby.
Bless up. Cole Beasley can be activated before week 17, but if you were to miss more time, Isaiah McKenzie's role this week was awesome. Not sure why they don't just. I mean, Cole Beasley is a good player, but like Isaiah McKenzie might be better. I don't know. He had 12 targets with 3 deep and 2 in the red zone. He did this last year too, with Beasley being out. So if they need a slot guy, McKenzie can fill in admirably. Also, with Gabe Davis definitely out next week, I think he has to miss next week. There's a decent chance we get McKenzie in a decent role again. I don't think they use McKenzie and Beasley at the same time, given that they kind of overlap in their skill sets, I guess I would say, or / height. But it's good to know that he can, if Beasley's out, McKenzie can beast. Rashad Penny, your boy, 135 yards again. Role remained a bit underwhelming. 17 carries, 1 target. He also had 1 out of 7 red zone chances. So he needs to break off long runs to be relevant for DFS. And he's doing that now. He's done it like 3 times in the past 3 games. Not sure if I want to bank on that. You've been more the Penny guy, not necessarily this year, but like you buy into his talent broadly. Are you higher on him than I seem to be?
I would say no, simply because my approach to fantasy football is I can like talent all I want, but if opportunity is not 100% there, the talent doesn't matter if it's not leading to more work. Then you're just banking on production on smaller snaps. Similar, like everyone loves Tony Pollard, but the reality is his role is not good enough to be fantasy relevant. This is a different situation. Rashad Penny, playing a slight majority of snaps, being extremely efficient. But if that's not leading to more work, then I'm just kind of banking on the week that he doesn't break those long runs. He had 61 yards over expectation rushing this week, according to Next Gen Stats. I think he's been like crazy efficient, like over expectation recently. Yeah. It's just not a thing that you can really bank on. So give me the workload with some more modest, production than the smaller workloads with like that outlier numbers.
I agree. Okay, let's move into some philosophical changes for this week. And the first one is that the Bengals let Joe Burrow cook. They had 22 passes and 9 rushes on early downs in the first half. It had been a pretty big talking point this week about how they had been more run heavy than people would like. But we talked Thursday about how they may throw more due to the matchup. The Ravens very good against the rush, and they kind of listened. They say, hey, good rush defense, let's air it out, and they did. So I think we can kind of view the Bengals based on matchups, which is weird. I don't do that for a lot of teams, but like when the matchup dictates, they will throw. And I think that's a really nice positive. So looking into the opponent, deciding what the opponent does well, and pivoting to the other option, I think is probably the way we want to view this team. And honestly, like I'm very okay with that. Where are you at this Bengals passing offense now?
Yeah, so they were 5th in non-garbage time pace for this week. It looks like your pre-snap win probability between 20 and 80%. And they were also 8th in pace. It was just a fun game to watch for a very talented offense whenever they're clicking. And again, I'm just one of the trends of ours for last week was looking at the Bengals and kind of just determining that they were pretty matchup sensitive. They had not had good matchups, easy matchups since week 8, and they struggled against tougher opponents. They got an easier opponent this week, and they took advantage. So there's nothing wrong with being matchup dependent, so long as we don't play them in the tough matchups and just take advantage of them whenever they play those easier opponents.
Matchup dependent is better than being unpredictable, and I think they're kind of predictable. So, like, I'll take it. I think that's a positive for sure. So we'll have to dig into the Chiefs, see what the Chiefs are excelling at now, because their defense obviously now very different than it was earlier on this year, and decide how we want to use the Bengals there. I think the answer will be use them always and kind of see what happens. But either way. Other thing to note was Trevor Lawrence was ripping it deep. He threw deep 10 times and completed 7 of them. 4 of those were to Tavon Austin, 3 were to Laquan Treadwell, 2 to Marvin Jones. They face the Patriots next week, so I don't care about it there. But long term, it's good to see Darrell Bevel letting Trevor Lawrence. I think Schottenheimer called plays on Sunday, but it's good to see the Jaguars, tapping into what Lawrence can do well, even though the personnel there is pretty bad. So I thought that was encouraging if it's not something that's actionable for week 17. Let's go into our salary scroll now. Open up the week 17 main slate over on FanDuel. Go position by position and shout out some salaries that stand out to us. Brandon, let's start off at quarterback. What are you seeing there? Kyler is 82, by the way. That's the first thing I see. And Dak is 74. I'm going to stack the poop out of that game.
Well, I'm getting the rainbow wheel of nothingness here, so I don't have my. I'm waiting on.
I'm just going to tell you that Kyler and Dak are going to be my saviors this week. I hope.
Okay, all right, I'm here. Oh,
my saviors are my downfalls.
Josh Allen against the Falcons feels like some FOMO happening.
Well, I think that he's pretty good bet for 30 there, right? You're not going to turn down 30. No, you might get 40 somewhere else. So, I don't know.
He's getting 40.
Is it Josh Allen without the anchor that is Cole Beasley? Because that could help. I think Kyler and Dak are absurd standouts on this one.
I mean, look, we have 2 games that stand out. 2 games have totals above 46.5. That's Bengals Chiefs at 49 and Cowboys Cardinals at 50. Both spreads there, 4.5 points. So we have the 2 quarterbacks you mentioned, and then we have Mahomes at 85 and Burrow at 77. We might not need to overthink this one, and we could just play those 4 quarterbacks and narrow it down from there if you want to get even tighter. But
so Stafford is 76. He's facing Baltimore, same spot that Joe Burrow is just in. Really bad pass defense, pretty good rush defense. I know we like Michelle. I used Stafford this week. It did not go well. It was terrible, and he was not good. He threw 3 picks. That's fun. And he fumbled. Oh, boy. What a good game from Matthew Stafford. Good thing they traded 2 for... Just kidding. Anyway, I tailed off. I was joking. It was a joke. Don't come at me, people. I was joking. It's a joke.
Well, now that I'm a film guy, I think I am able to say that Matthew Stafford looked a little lost out there on Sunday. I don't know what's going on there.
He was shooketh by the Vikings defense, which ranks middle of the pack across the board.
Ryan Tannehill revenge game.
Oh.
That's a joke, but I mean, it is a revenge game, but I'm not going to roster him.
I feel like we can just go with the game stacks given these salaries, right? Like the Chiefs, Bengals, and Cardinals, Cowboys.
Yeah, I don't think we need to overthink it at quarterback.
I think Lamar / Huntley, depending on who plays there, could be interesting because that Rams game is not terrible from a game stacking perspective. It's also a pace-up spot for them in a pretty massive way. But,
just give us Trey Lance, 64 against the Texans.
I would take that. I agree.
So I think quarterbacks those 4 in the 2 shootouts.
Okay, let's go to running back. Jonathan Taylor is 10,000. Appropriate.
I'll take it.
Yeah. I mean, I know that people were pretty tilted about what happened this past week, but that was with every offensive lineman in a gutter, basically.
Still went for 108 yards.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Ryan Kelly will be back because he's dealing with some really rough stuff right now. So he might not be back. I wouldn't blame him, honestly. I just feel bad for him. Go ahead.
Do you think the target drop off for Taylor is
no?
Okay.
I don't care. I mean, they're not throwing, so
right.
They did a little bit more this week, but like they're not throwing enough for me to care. Okay, so I think he's well worth 10,000.
Yes.
Other things that may stand out: Eli Mitchell is 78 versus Houston. If he gets in a full practice by Friday, I could be into that. I don't think I'd like it more than like the people we talked about before, but like I could be into him at 78. I think.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about my season-long team, but that'd be good for me.
David Montgomery facing the Giants, $7,200, 21 carries and 9 targets this past week. That's not terrible.
Incredible. What's that, 39 adjusted opportunities?
Yeah.
So Montgomery over Damian Harris for sure.
Oh my gosh, yes. He laps him.
Yeah.
That probably sounds stupid to a lot of people, but like passing game work does matter a lot on FanDuel. So that's why. That's the reasoning behind that, despite the gap in the respective offenses.
It's what 6.75 points in implied team total there.
Yeah.
That's not it's a touchdown, but it's not so substantial that give me those snaps.
Okay. Scrolling down. I mean, it's a guy
can you rank
highlighted.
Can you rank quickly Damian Harris, David Montgomery, Sony Michel, Ronald Jones right now?
Michelle
I
won.
think it's Michel, Montgomery, Jones, Harris.
Agreed across the board.
All right.
And that's the other guys we talked about. I guess Darrell Williams being 62 is like, again, flag worthy that like, okay, that's low enough where I can give him some thought in a game that I'm going to want to stack. Devin Singletary does stand out a lot at 6,000.
Yeah.
Depending on how things go Monday night, Duke Johnson's 58. I think that's worth at least mentioning.
Yes.
Versus Tennessee. That spread's 3.5. I think that'll lengthen as the week goes along, if I had to guess. But
so
yeah, I think it's about that mid-range. The mid-range being good, Taylor being good. I think that's the key thing for this week.
That might honestly put Harris a little bit more into play, but we glossed over Alvin Kamara, Joe Mixon. I don't think I'll be too heavy Austin Eckler against the Broncos, but
no. But Mixon's fine for game stacks for sure, you know. But Taylor, I think, is like worth prioritizing and using the mid-range to get there. Specifically, Michelle. Who was the other
one?
Montgomery. Yeah.
And
I think
Singletary, who isn't mid-range, but
I think all those are key flags for this week. Want to go to receiver?
Yes, sir.
Cooper Kupp is 10-2 versus Baltimore. Fair. Again, like I can't, like, how do I push back on that? He scored 16.3 points this week with no touchdowns. He's like McCaffrey. He's got it.
Yeah. At least 9 targets every game.
He's Christian McCaffrey at wide receiver.
That's unreal.
Tyreek should not be 82. Like, I know it's been weird, but like the Bengals should be able to score points and keep them competitive, and Tyreek could go bananas, I think.
He could.
AJ Brown 75, I think, does stand out a bit as being a bit under salary potentially.
I'm going to go back to Jamar Chase in game stacks for sure.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We prefer T over Jamar Chase straight up, correct?
Yeah.
I think so. I mean,
I've been like T Higgins' #1 fan for a long time. He was like my favorite receiver coming out of that class, but
yeah, I mean,
I just love Jamar Chase too.
I think liking Higgins having Higgins above Chase is more about liking Higgins a lot than it is about not liking Chase. Chase, like, if you have a single entry lineup for next week, you go to Chase over Higgins for sure, just because Higgins coming off a massive blow up game.
Well, it's a 14-game main slate, so I think the popularity is going to be so flat. Aside from very few spots.
Maybe I'll dig into their past roster rates. Pull a Crabtree Cooper type of thing. We'll look into it. See where people go. Okay, what else you see in here? CeeDee Lamb is 72.
I was trying.
Amari Cooper 67. Michael Gallup is Scrolling. 58. Oh my gosh. That game is so... Okay. We're just going to build this. You keep talking. I'm going to build this game stack.
I wish I could have told you whenever I first mentioned in the situations to monitor that Amon-Ra St. Brown's role is getting a lot better, that come week 17, he was going to be 6,900 on FanDuel.
It's Goff back this week against Seattle.
I wish I could have just had that information at the ready.
Okay. What stupid defense are we going to put in here?
Oh my gosh. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 69. Amari Cooper, 67. Mike Williams, 66. DK Metcalf, 66. What a world.
What a world. He has like 12, or 10 targets in 4 straight or something like that, right?
Yeah, 11 plus in 4 straight with 73 yards in all 4 and a touchdown in 3 of the 4.
Okay, what stupid defense are we putting in here? Let's just put Carolina in for now.
Don't talk to me about defense.
Okay. So if I go Dak, Gallup, Ertz with the Carolina defense, you're at 75-40 left. If I put in Jonathan Taylor, you're at 69-25.
Pretty nice.
Pretty good. Pretty good game to stack. Maybe I'll just ignore Chiefs. No, I won't. I won't ignore Chiefs Bengals. I'm not going to do that. That'd be stupid. But that game is stupid in terms of how low salaried everyone is in it.
The probability of those games scoring enough points to separate from the pack on a 14-game main slate, it might, and with enough ways to stack those, you could probably build like 20 lineups and like a 20 entry max where you play just stacks of those games, different iterations, and then you plug in with the best like one-off values or mini stacks from there.
Keep talking. Yes.
And again, I don't know how feasible it is, but like we could try to look at popularity numbers on larger main slates. I mean, we've had 13-game main slates, but like 14 is substantial and numbers get pretty flat.
It's a lot of digging. I'm pretty lazy. Okay. Other stuff. I think Kirk, even as a standalone play at 64, is a standout.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that I need to put him in my. I had Earth in there already. I guess we'll do both.
Plan both.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay. Got that. Good.
We could do a wait and see on Devontae Parker at 59.
Sure. What's Waddle?
7,000, I think.
Maybe. That's a little high. Yeah. A little high. Devontae Smith this week finally got more than 6 targets for the first time since he was a freshman in college. That's good. It's actually since October 24th. It was more than 2 months. He went between getting more than 6 targets in a game. Love that offense. The best.
Ayuk at 59, I still think is a really good play.
Not as much of a good play though when I see Gallup at 58.
Sure.
Like I think I took Ayuk out of my lock-in and I put Gallup in.
I still might be about equal on them.
You want to do a bet?
No.
Oh. Boo. Coward.
Yeah, that's me.
Julio's 56.
We got
what, St. Brown's salary is $1,300 higher than Julio Jones's. I hate it.
So we already have. I think Gallup and Ayuk take away Byron Pringle's appeal a lot.
I agree.
I don't think. Is there anyone like we're missing down here?
Isaiah McKenzie, but like Beasley should be back by then because I think his 10-day window will be up.
Yeah. I honestly, we have so many receivers to dig through that it's going to be extremely difficult for me to narrow down.
One thing I forgot is Mike Williams is going to miss next week too, which means Josh Palmer at 52. Guyton should be back by then, so it won't be like the same role that he had, but Guyton gets like a target a game. In the 2 games where Palmer's been like a full player, he's had 7 targets, 66 yards, touchdown, 6 targets, 43 yards and a touchdown. So it's not like amazing, but it's also not terrible. Also, Josh Reynolds, 52. facing Seattle with Goff back. That's not the no, I shouldn't do that. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, we're going to get some huge games from this amount of receivers.
Yeah.
That I don't want to tie too many lineups to someone whose ceiling might be like 12.3 FanDuel
which is
points.
Reynolds probably.
Yeah,
I agree. You're right. But I do think Palmer is someone we'll have to at least discuss on Thursday, most likely.
If it gets me like a Jonathan Taylor, Cooper Kupp, George Kittle type of thing, I'm more open to it.
Yeah.
But you need guys who can make up for missed opportunities.
Yep. Do you want to go to tight end?
Yeah, let's move over to tight end. Oh my gosh.
Mark Andrews is $8,700. I'm uncomfy.
It's not.
My skin is itchy.
Oh my gosh, 10. All right, let's play this game. Is this Cooper Kupp's game log or Mark Andrews? 10 targets, 13, 11, 9, 10, 10, 8, 10.
Trick question. Well, he had an 8 in there, so I know it's Andrews.
That's
but
true.
If you hadn't included the 8, the answer is trick question. The answer is both. It's the same person.
How could you tell?
Is there a difference? They both had good beards. Cooper Kupp's is not good. He has a beard. It's not good. But he has one.
I don't think it's wrong. I probably won't get to Andrews though, if I'm
really
being realistic.
Really high.
Like Mark Andrews or Tyreek Hill with 500 in savings.
I mean, I should probably take the guy who gets targets and go Mark Andrews.
That's true, yeah.
But realistically.
Okay. Travis Kelce's 82 in a game we'll want to play a lot.
It's high, but it's fair.
George Kittle at 73 is going to feel like the best value for sure out of the top 4. And because Gronk's salary didn't budge from 67. So, we're going to be mostly on Kittle, I think. At least that will be.
Relative to salary, he's the best. He is the best relative to salary, but I'll be stacking that game less. So probably wind up on Kelce, I guess. Yeah. As a result.
Yeah.
I wish Kyle Pitts weren't facing Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
I also wish he were allowed to score touchdowns.
Yeah.
It'd be great. Mike Kosicki is 59. He doesn't really do a lot. I shouldn't. No, just redact that. Pretend I didn't talk about him. He doesn't do a lot with when both Parker and Waddle are healthy. So just he doesn't exist. I
don't think I can do much at all Pitts or Kosicki when we have Zach Ertz at 55.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Even if Zach Ertz is like chalky.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get like the value tight end who's chalky because he's like slotting into like a Foster Moreau or something.
Ricky Seals-Jones.
Yeah, like that kind of stuff. This is not that. He's leading the team in target rate in those relevant games that I mentioned.
Getting yardage.
Like, yeah. He's got multiple he's got touchdown upside. He just hasn't scored in 4 games.
Yeah. He will. Write that down.
So, is it as simple as
Ertz or pay up?
Ertz or the studs? I mean, it might be.
I think it is. I think it should be at least, right?
Unless you're going to play Jared Cook at 49 and be like, you know what? 7.9 FanDuel points is enough. It feels
some tweet.
There's a difference
between Jared Cook yesterday.
Well, there's like a fear of or there's a difference between the fear of missing out, and just understanding the probability that these guys put up like 18. And if your tight ends are if Mark Andrews puts up like 22 points,
which is a decrease from where he's been recently.
It's really hard to, it's near impossible to make that up unless you're hitting everywhere. And as much as we like to think that, if you go back and look even at like these lineups that are winning tournaments, there are some guys who didn't quite perform at peak, but they won because they're having guys who can do even like a T Higgins, because T Higgins is not like a low upside player. We know that the upside is there. It's a difference of like So I know what I'm saying. I know what I'm saying.
Let's go to defense. Ick.
You can.
Ick. Baltimore against Matthew Trashford. 35. I'm joking. He's great. Kidding. Let it be. Carolina against whatever Clay's for the Saints. I don't know. It might be
Miami,
not the
maybe
best week. No, I think with AJ Brown back, that's tougher.
It's true.
Tannehill takes sacks, so they could work. But Drew Lock plays again. If the Chargers get Derwin James, Joey Bosa back, I could see the Chargers at 4,000 being pretty good. I had a lot of Raiders this week, which didn't really pan out. But I think using defenses versus Drew Lock in the long run will probably be a good thing.
Is this going to be a week where we need to like earmark at least 4,000 in salary for
potentially
defenses? That's not fun.
No, not really. Also, none of the ones around 4,000 are good either. Like the first defense, I'm like, yeah, I kind of want to do that. Is Seattle at 44 versus Detroit, or Buffalo at 45 against Atlanta?
I mean, I'll have to look more at defense at the top and see if there are like can't miss spots. I guess maybe New England.
Yeah.
I might do some dumb punt plays at defense.
I mean, I will. I always do. So this won't be a change.
Yeah.
Okay.
Five defenses scored double-digit FanDuel points last week, and 4 score negative. 5 score negative points. So you don't want to get it wrong. But just because you allocate salary doesn't mean that you're not going to get negative points like the Chargers.
Correct, you are. Let's go now to a note to future me after having experienced Sunday, looked back on it and reviewed it. What are you telling Week 17 on Sunday morning, Brandon?
Trust the mid-range running backs like Sonny Michel, Dave Montgomery. At this point, I had play Brandon Ayuk, but I think I really need to go one by one with every receiver, because from 58 to up through Cooper Kupp, we have a lot of receivers who could have big games, and I want to kind of rank them and know what I'm missing out, and then translate that over to Jonathan Taylor versus like the Montgomery Michel type plays.
Yeah.
So I think the big takeaway is, you said, what am I going to tell myself on Sunday? Feel confident that I ranked the receivers properly.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. For me, it is, don't be afraid of trusting the previous process with game stacking, because this year has been different. This year has been different because they're having a lot of high total, tight spread games. We actually had those this week, and I believe those are legitimate. So I want to remind myself to get back to my old process of game stacking games with high totals, tight spreads, and reminding myself why we did that in the first place. I think that's a key for this week. So, and we can do it too, based on the salaries of Tyreek, based on the salaries of T. Higgins, all the guys in the Cardinals-Cowboys game. I think that I need to get back to that in a pretty serious way this week, which is great. I welcome that with open arms, and I'm excited to do it that way.
Absolutely.
Okay, that is all that we have here for the Week 16 recap show, our final recap podcast of the entire year, but we still have our preview podcasts running all the way to the Super Bowl. So we're going to be here a lot. Make sure you are subscribed to the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed wherever you get your podcasts. While you're there, leave us a rating and review. That does help us out a bunch. Thank you to those of you who have done so already. Brandon, if people have questions for you on Twitter, where can they find you there?
I'm at Goodwilla13, GDULA13.
And I'm at Jim Sannes, JimSannes. You can also follow the FanDuel Podcast Network at FanDuel Podcast. Big thank you to everyone for tuning in for today. Good luck to you as you fill out your lines for Monday night and also for next week. We'll talk to you once again on Thursday to get you set for Week 17. This has been the Heat Check Fantasy Podcast powered by numberFire.